Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome and thank you for watching this video. This week is Mental Health Week and I thought it would be a good time to speak out and share my experiences with depression. It's been a while and this is definitely something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. It's not that I've forgotten or I didn't want to do it, but it's more taking me this long because I didn't really know how to put this video together. And to be honest, the reason why I started YouTubing was because I wanted to express myself openly to everyone equally, because I feel that every time I have this discussion with individuals, I feel like I need to cater my words and my response so it can make them understand, or make sure that it doesn't upset them in any way with some of the things that are going on in my head. So one of my first videos was an introduction about myself, and I mentioned issues about my health as well as my weight, and I also mentioned that I wanted to do a separate video on depression because it was one of the things that was impacting my life, and that was over a year ago. And to be honest, I didn't feel 100% confident talking about it. I still don't feel 100%, but I feel like I am more comfortable now than I was a few months ago. And to be honest, I did start writing down things. I did want to do this a lot earlier, but I found it that me being a very detailed person, I was trying to get as much as I could in to really try and display something which I wasn't 100% sure what I was feeling, because for me the biggest problem is trying to explain to someone what I'm going through, yet I don't know how. I can't even put it into words. The way I think is all through emotions, and I find it hard trying to translate that into words. And a lot of times I feel like I just give up and just tell everyone that I'm fine, which really I'm not, and I'm keeping it all inside. So I did end up writing an essay over 10 pages, which would have taken 10 hours to film. So I thought, I'm just gonna cut that out and just give you a shorter version on how people feel about depression, and how if you know someone that's going through it, a little insight of how they feel. So before I continue, just a disclaimer, I'm not a professional in any way. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist or a counselor. This is all purely based on my experiences and the way I felt and what I went through. It's just more to give an open mind that, depression can really impact anyone. It's not targeted at a specific group of people. I guess, there's a stereotypical type, I guess, that people think that, if someone is dressed all black or heavy makeup, that they're emo, that they're going through depression. It's not like that. Depression can impact anyone. You could be, you can be struggling financially, you can be a kid, you can be an adult, you can be wealthy and rich, you can even be a celebrity. It doesn't target anyone specifically. It could happen to anyone. And I guess in a way with social media, there's more awareness lately, but I feel that the awareness is, people like things that they see on Facebook, spreading awareness, but they don't realize that it actually hits a lot closer to home for certain people, and you may not notice, but your friends or family may be going through it. So I guess this is my way of reaching out and sharing my story. Another thing I want to point out is that not everyone has a background story. You hear stories of people that, have found it tough because they've been neglected, they've been abused or bullied, but not everyone goes through the same things, and it doesn't make you any less of a person. There's no, oh, this person is more depressed than this person. Everyone has their own ways of feeling it and also dealing with it, but it does not define you as a person. You are not, that person with bipolar. You're not that, emo kid. It's just a part of you, but it doesn't reflect who you are. You may be the most funniest, the most cleverest, or the smartest person, but you could still be, you can still have your own emotional feelings. So with me personally, I wasn't abused, I wasn't neglected, and I wasn't even bullied. Like, yeah, there was schoolyard bullying, but nothing dramatic that happened that impacted my life. And I guess for a first generation Australian, you could say there may have been some, you know, impacts with the whole different cultures. But to be honest, my parents came in the 70s, and they're really open to change and adapted really well to, the Australian culture, that I didn't feel like I was any different to my Western friends. My parents attended school working bees. I had normal sandwiches for lunch. Like, there wasn't really anything that stood out. I guess for me, it was a realization that I just didn't belong in a certain way. And I guess for me, it's an ongoing thing as I was growing up. So in primary school, I was pretty shy. I was a sheep, a follower. I had one best friend throughout primary school, and I followed in her shadows because I didn't want to do anything that made me, a center of attention or, recognized for anything. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago when I was talking to my cousin about that she made me realize that it wasn't that I was shy, because at home I was far from it, but it was that I was a very guarded person, and I guarded my feelings and my thoughts. And I guess, when you're growing up and you're like 6 or 7, it's the last thing you really want to think about. But I find myself all the time thinking about what ifs, or, why I should do this, and, whether this is right or this is wrong. And I guess growing up, that was all part of learning. You've got your parents, you've got your teachers teaching you, educating you on how to, develop and grow up academically, as well as, how to deal in certain situations. But I found myself questioning, whether this is what I'm supposed to do, or whether this is what I want to do. And I guess, my parents were always strict with me growing up. I was like any kid. All I wanted to do was go out and play. And while I watched or heard about my friends go out after school, I was always at home. I had to study. And even on Saturdays, I went to Saturday schools while my friends went and played sports. And I envied that so much. And, now that I think about it, I am really, grateful that my parents did that. Because I think, like any migrant parents, having to struggle and come from a country that was dealing with civil war, is they didn't really have anything. And now to see that they struggled, they did everything they could to put us first and make sure it wasn't that they just wanted us to go to uni. It's because the way they see it, having a good education means everything. And to be in a country where we're privileged to have that opportunity, it meant a lot to them. And, when you're a kid, you don't understand that. But I do understand now. And I'm really grateful that, they put us first in everything. But it wasn't, at the time, I felt like I was born into the world to be molded into a person. Whereas I got confused because I thought, while in school they teach you to be whatever you want to be, but then, you have to follow their rules in a way. And I guess the one thing I remember from primary school is that once in, I think, grade 3, we were learning divisions, and the kid next to me and I clearly did not know what we were doing. So the teacher came and helped out, and, he wrote down number 5 on his paper, so I wrote down number 5, and the teacher turned to me and said, "Gina, have you been copying this whole time? And don't say no." And for an 8-year-old, that really confused the shit out of me, because one minute you're asking me a question, whether I've been copying this whole time, my answer is no, this is the first time. But yet you want me to say, not to say no. So therefore I had to say yes. And I don't remember what happened after, but I do remember that feeling of being so confused, whether I should lie just to make you happy or tell the truth and say I didn't do it. And at the end, I said yes, I was copying, because I spent my whole life being told, your parents, your teachers, they're your authority figures, you should listen to them. That at the end of the day, it kind of made me question, what is right and what's not right. And it is a little deep for someone at that age, but I think that is the difference between me and a normal kid. I didn't understand why people make up rules, or there are rules yet there's exemptions, and why some people didn't have to follow it. And it's not that I was a slow developer. I didn't feel like, I was falling behind or anything. It was just a feeling that I had that I didn't know where I belong, or like what I was supposed to be doing. And so growing up through high school, little things like that I kind of picked on where I questioned, and I kind of had this feeling that it wasn't normal to think more than I should have in a certain situation, that I kind of questioned a lot of things. But in order to not sound like I'm that smart ass kid or that one that questions everything, I kind of just kept it to myself. But even though something doesn't actually impact me, I felt like I was investing a lot of emotions into a lot of feelings of hurt for, the other person, or, if something I see is clearly wrong, why I felt like I was hurt by it. And rather than, I guess, letting my family and friends see it, I kind of covered that up by just, saying something else. And in a way, I feel like I've developed this shield of, my friends always say, oh, Jeannie, you're so funny, or you're so blonde, because of some of the stuff I say. But really, I feel like I've created this shield of being, like, trying to be funny to cover up the fact that I'm secretly going crazy in my own mind, and I didn't want I'd rather people think I'm funny than I was crazy. So I just kind of kept it to myself. But at the same time, as I grew into an adult, I feel like I've trapped myself in this position where even my friends and family think I am not smart enough, that I felt like I was constantly being looked down on. And as much as I was growing as a person, I felt like when I was 18, I was more confident. I was actually living my own life, being an individual, making my own choices and decisions. But at the same time, I always felt like I was never good enough for anyone, because no one saw me as, Gina, that smart person, or the one that can try to do things, someone that is positive. But I always felt like I was that person that, just said stupid stuff and things like that. And it really got me down. That felt like, even though I know that I am a good person, I know that I can do as much as I can in what I achieve, I felt like I was constantly trying to prove people wrong, that I'm not that, stubborn, stupid girl that can't do things. I can do things for myself. And a lot of times people say, as long as, you're happy with what you achieve, then that's all that matters. It is true. It does matter that you think you've done a great job. However, if you don't have someone that sees you for who you are to share that with, you can't even really acknowledge it, because there's no one there to kind of witness it or like believe in you. And I don't know, that kind of set me up. And sometimes, like, I feel like when I share this with someone, it sounds very selfish of me. But at the end of the day, without being seen, or without that, appreciation in someone, it can really bring them down at the end of the day. I guess another issue with me is that although I, often question and try to speak my mind, I'm also a people pleaser. I often put my feelings aside if I know that it will hurt another person. And at the end of the day, because of that, I bottle everything up, and it gets to a certain stage where that bottle gets full and I crack and I break down, but there's no one there to share that with, because no one knows exactly what I'm going through and how I feel. And also, being a person that pays a lot of attention into detailing, it makes it hard to kind of break out of that cycle. I guess if you're a developer, one of the greatest strengths is to be able to pinpoint any impacts and, create if statements. If this happens, do this. If this happens, or else this. And as a personality, that can really become a weakness, because a lot of times, in a lot of situations, I pre-plan, what if this and happen. At the end of the day, I feel that if it's going to impact someone, or if I'm putting a burden onto someone else, then I will just go to the else and just forget all about it, forget anything ever happened, and I'll bottle that aside. And at the end of the day, the only person that it really impacts is me. And the worst feeling is feeling alone. Like, you can be in a crowded room with a lot of family and friends, but at the end of the day, no one is there, or no one knows what you're going through. And my biggest fear is myself. I'm scared that, you know, one day it will be all too much for me. I'm scared that one day, you know, something will happen to me, or I will do something to me. And as much as I want to reach out to people, I feel like that it's like explaining to someone who's colorblind how to see in color. You can't explain to them because they've never seen it before. I can't explain to someone how I feel because they don't know, or I don't even know how it feels. And at the end of the day, I'm not looking for someone to fix my problems. I'm not, you know, asking for someone to make it go away. I'm just asking for someone. I just want someone to be there. Anyway, so I have kind of waffled on a bit because I tend to do that. But back to the topic. Depression isn't something that can be fixed overnight. It's an ongoing thing. Some people take antidepressants because it helps calm their mood and relaxes them, whilst others take up hobbies to keep themselves busy, and others just want to be listened to, but they just don't know where to begin. So it's an ongoing process, and it's each to their own. And the most you could do, if you know anyone going through it, is just to be supportive, and not just listening to them, but being there physically as well, because actions speak louder than words. You know, it's hard enough having someone open up about their feelings and explaining it, but if you take that and then move on the next day and pretend everything is fine again, it may be fine for you, but for that person, it's an ongoing thing that happens to them every day. They can't just move on. And the worst thing you could do, worst advice, is to tell them to stop thinking about it, or don't worry about it, because it's like telling someone not to breathe. You know, if it was that easy, then no one will be in this situation. But because, you know, it's all part of the process of, I guess, feeling like this, is because people do think too much, and that's why, you know, they get the way they are. So the worst thing you could say is, like, you know, not to think about it, because if it was that easy, you know, maybe they wouldn't be in that situation. And no one is asking to move mountains and oceans for them. Like, the worst thing you could also do is, you know, call every once in a while and ask if you're okay, but not physically being there for them, because it kind of feels like they've got some kind of terminal illness. You know, makes them feel like that. You know, we're not asking you to plan like events or plan things every weekend to keep them busy, but it's just little things like, you know, being in the same room. You don't have to do the same thing, but just being in the same room with them, or just making them feel like they're part of something, or that they're welcomed. It's little things like that that make a big difference. Because at the end of the day, no one is asking you to fix things. It's just about being supportive as much as you can. So I hope this video kind of sheds some awareness, and it's definitely helped me more than anything. And I hope that if, you know, anyone else is going through similar situations, that just know that you're not alone. And it doesn't matter how big or small your problems are. You know, at the end of the day, just remember that what you're going through doesn't define you as a person, and that person is still there. You just got to find ways of dealing with it and making sure everyone else sees it as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.